Hello everyone! In this tutorial I'm going to represent you the neck warmer I designed myself especially for the Christmas time. And here I also show you how you can knit this one yourself. You will learn here all techniques I use, such as casting on, neck rip, collar work and binding off. If you find it easy to understand and you really want to make this one for your kids, the pattern is available on my Etsy shop to purchase. Together with the neck warmer, this pattern also includes a sweater pattern with the same Christmas design. The complete tutorial of the sweater you can find on my channel. Both of the patterns are made for kids from newborn age to 12 years old. I hope you will like the design and the tutorial. Let's get started. Choosing the yarn is one of the crucial parts. Here I was using a yarn of 50% wool, 50% acrylic, and I should admit I'm not completely satisfied with it. I still think that pure wool looks and feels much better. The budget and still high quality yarn I would recommend is Norwegian brand Drops. I'm going to leave a link below where you can buy it. Otherwise, you can use any yarn that will meet the required gauge. If you're still avoiding making samples before knitting, I'm not going to insist. You can check the label of the yarn and see what the approximate knitting tension you might expect. However, if you want to get the right size, it's time to make a sample and count how many stitches you get in 10 cm after blocking the sample. To knit this neck warmer, you want to get 21 stitches in 10 cm using 40 mm needles. If you get different number of stitches, then you need to adjust needles to the bigger or smaller size. First of all, I need circle needles size 4 mm, 40 cm and 60 cm long. Circle needle size 3 mm, 40 cm long for the neck rib. Besides, I use markers and a plastic needle. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you the whole process on the smallest size 6 to 9 months old baby. First of all, I check how many stitches I need to cast on. It says 66 stitches. I could cast on stitches a classic way or the ordinary way I normally do, but I want to show you tubular casting on, so you learn here something new. Here in the photo you can see how it actually looks like, and I find this method the best and the easiest one to use. For casting on, I need to find the waist thread approximately the same weight or slightly thicker. The length should be enough for the first row. Then I divide the number of stitches I need to cast on into two. In my case, I get 33 stitches. So I take my needles size 4 mm and cast on 33 stitches plus 1 stitch to join the circle. After all stitches on my needles, I distribute them on 4 needles size 3 mm. In order to join the circle, I move the last stitch to the right needle and move the first stitch over it. Therefore, I have a gapless circle. Then I can start knitting using my main yarn. Here it is red colored thread. Next 3 rows I do only purl rows. If you think that this method at the moment looks strange, you will be surprised how it will turn out afterward. Now it's time to make a proper rib from what I already have. First I do is one purl stitch. After, check your knitting, and here you see the line of loops of the main collar along the edge. Now I raise the first loop and make a knit stitch using it. Don't tighten the stitch, it has to be pretty loose and relaxed. Next is a purl stitch from the existing stitches, then erase another loop from the edge and make a knit stitch. Again, purl stitch and knit stitch from the loop along the edge. I keep repeating this way until the very end of the row. If you did everything right, you get the right number of stitches. 66 stitches I have. As I still have the waist thread holding my rib tight, I take my scissors and get rid of it. I have to be careful and don't cut my main thread. This edge stretches very well if you used 40mm needles while casting on and didn't tighten stitches while raising the loops. Now I can knit my rib for about 10-12 cm height. So I repeat it as a one purl stitch, one knit stitch pattern. I take needles size 4mm again and do one row of knitting, changing the needle size. The most interesting part of the neck warmer is working the chart. Let me show you the most crucial moments. In the chart you can see all rows are numbered, so I read it bottom up and only those rows that includes in my size. For example, if I see that I have to skip the row for my size, I ignore it and take the next. The chart is worked in two colors. Let us start from the very first row. Then I take the white thread. Look at how do I put both threads into my fingers. They are separated and I hold them relatively tight. This way they don't entangle and are convenient to use. Now I do the first row of the chart. Here I alternate red and white stitches. There are only 6 stitches repeating, so I repeat them the whole round. I skip row 2 as I do size 1 to ears and start row 3, which is the same as row 1. I skip row 4 and start row 5 where I do first increases. In row 5 I see the first increases. How do I do them? As you see, the increase comes as a very first stitch. Therefore, before to start the row, I need to lift up this increase from the side of the first stitch. I insert the needle like this. It has to be a twisted knit stitch to leave less holes in the knitting. Therefore, I use the back loop of the stitch. Then I do next 6 stitches. Next repeating part starts from the increase again. I insert the needle and make a twisted knit stitch, and then the rest 6 stitches that follow. This way I do increases every repeating part until the end of the row. Row 6. Here again I see one increase, but this time in the end of the repeating part. So first of all I do 7 stitches. Then I leave the loop from the stretch in between stitches, twist it and make a knit stitch from it. Look one more time. 7 stitches first, then 1 increase from the stretch in between stitches, twist it and make a knit stitch. All other increases I do absolutely the same way. Don't forget to skip rows that are not included for your size. See you by the row 14, where I show how to work with the long stretches and weave the thread correctly. Now I'm by the row 14, where there's 3 white stitches with a stretch of 7 red stitches. If I followed the way I work with 2 colors, I would get the very long stretches on the wrong side. I want to avoid it. What can I do here? I check how do I put both threads on my finger. The white one should be the first one. The red one is on the second finger because it can cause this long stretch I try to avoid making. I start with the red color. I have 3 stitches and I pick up the thread above the white one. Then I do 3 white stitches. Before I have the next 3 white stitches, I need to make 7 red stitches, which is a bit too long. I want to divide them into 4 stitches plus 3 stitches. During first 4 stitches, I pick up the red thread above the white one, as previously. Next 3 stitches I want to pick up under the white thread, but here I have to be extra careful when I entangle the white thread. I want to keep the red thread tight to minimize the risk that white thread will be visible from the front side. Once you try yourself, you will understand what I'm talking about. White thread looks nice on the wrong side of my knitting. Then I reach the next 3 white stitches and do repeat the same procedure over and over again. You will also encounter more long stretches further, but all of them I do using the same principle. Now the whole yoke is ready and I want to prepare it to binding off. I do 1 row of plain knitting using red color. Then I do 1 purl row and the whole round. 1 knit row again. Then one purl row, and one knit row again. The next row is a final one. Here I'm going to bind off all stitches. Look carefully how I'm doing it. First I do yarn over, then do one knit stitch and pull the thread and the previous stitch over the knit stitch. Then again, yarn over, one knit stitch and pull the yarn over and previous stitch over it. Doing it, I get knit edge that stretches very well. I keep binding off until the end of the row. To finish with the row, I need to lift up the stitch from the beginning of the row. Make a knit stitch, and pull the previous stitch over. After, I cut the thread and using the crochet needle weave the loose end. When all loose ends are hidden, I need to block the neck warmer and it will be ready. However, you can keep knitting this piece and get the sweater. I will tell about how to make a sweater with the same pattern in my next videos. Thank you and see you soon!